Well, actually, there was an additional way polio affected my life, and I hadn't thought of that when you were asking about things affecting it. But in the summer between my 5th and 6th grade, which would been 19, what did I say, 40, okay, I started school in 46, so this would have been, whatever, 48, 47, what am I talking about? You know, anyway, in that particular summer, there was a big polio epidemic. It was really serious that year. And my mother was working, and my grandmother, I stayed at home with my grandmother. And that was the time when kids ran loose pretty happily, and you didn't hear about kidnapping children and all this stuff. So
you were able just to get out and play.
Yeah, you just go play it.
Guys, well, at this time, you say your mom was working. Was your dad still alive?
My dad was working. But I'm saying my mother, like I said, she never wanted to be poor as they were in the Depression. And she never wanted to be helpless like she was with polio. So all she knew was to get a job and save money, and she worked for 4 years, I guess, and saved the money to buy an automobile. They didn't have an automobile until I was 8 years old.
Oh, okay.
And well, you didn't need one. You had public transit. You know? You walked 6 blocks and got on that trolley buses I was talking about, and you rode downtown and changed bus lines, went out 10 miles the other direction, you know, or whatever you were trying to do. And so people got along, and that's why I fought pretty hard in Fayetteville. Spoke at the meetings of the Quorum Court in favor of passing a small tax, a tiny tax, to get transit improved in our area, more buses and so forth. But anyway, in that summer, my mother was working, of course, and my grandmother, who was a seamstress, was the person in charge of the house. Her husband, my grandfather, was a World War I vet and getting up in years and retired, et cetera, and he was around, so I had a double set of parents, in effect, and I know it was my mother that insisted that my grandmother see that I not play out in the heat, take any risk that summer. So I gained a bunch of weight, and that was a change. I was a scrawny little kid, so I in the 6th grade, if I saw any bullying, I would do like the cowboys in the movies and stop it, because I had gotten 30 pounds heavier in that summer or something. So, which resulted in some of those people in the 6th grade talking to their friends in the 7th and 8th and 9th grade to come over and see that I stopping them from bullying. I mean, you know. But anyway, that started a little pattern of behavior, of confidence, and yet gaining weight, too much weight at one time, gives you lack of confidence in other ways. You know, it's a big thing.
Now, why didn't your mom want you outside?
Because polio was
is
not
it airborne?
certain. Nobody, I don't know. I've never heard an explanation exactly from bad water, bad air. But my mother had thought she got it from drinking out of a well down in the country when we were on one of these fishing trips I talked about earlier.
But then she was also afraid that maybe it was airborne and didn't want you around the other children.
You know, nobody at that time ever said, well, how do you get this virus? And I haven't read an explanation of that myself, because it wasn't of interest. I've been reading constantly on polio. I might know what they've decided, but if they found a way to create a vaccine to fight the virus, they must know more about or lots about how it spread. So it's not concerned now. Very few countries in the world have a polio problem. but it
Right.
could arise again if they
Mhm.
don't get the vaccine.
Sure.
Smallpox did. Because a lot of the people that were migrating up that were doing it illegally, they don't have all their shots.
Mhm.
And then you get them into places where, maybe, because there are some people here that they don't have to have their shots. You know what I mean? They can
Right.
get waivers and stuff from doctors and all that. And so smallpox was coming back up for that. So I guess anything's possible to I think we did most of what was on there.
Yeah, did you do the last question?
Well, the most important accomplishments, I was just kind of, what are your most important accomplishments? I guess I was kind of putting it with
They say, what do you feel to be the most important accomplishment of your life? Do you have one thing that stands out above anything else? I mean,
No, that's like when you have one child, that was a big
Yeah.
accomplishment. But, and it stands out in your life. In my case, certainly, and beautiful daughter. But in our neighborhood, I guess that little World Peace Wetland Parade Park is my accomplishment.
Well, yeah.
that we were able to speak up as a neighborhood and actually get the developer to sell the land to our neighborhood. And we
Okay.
had to raise the money because our neighborhood ain't wealthy. So it wasn't like we could
What
just
was
go
it?
around the neighborhood and play money. 2.5 acre nature park. And it was approved for 48 apartments to be built on that 2.5 acres. And they would have been on the,
And the neighborhood pitched in and bought it?
well, neighbors put in sweat equity in going to meetings and talking about it and fighting. And then, I mean,
I think all that's on your website, isn't it?
yeah,
The whole-
I
so
spent
we
money
don't-
on a lawyer to fight them just on my fence line, stuff like that, quite a bit. But we got the money donated by the Tree and Trail Task Force, or the city was created to buy green space for the city after the city council failed to stop the development where Kohl's and other businesses are. They let them take out lots of big mature trees, beautiful little patch of forest there. And the city council approved it, in violation of the city's own tree protection ordinance. Those were high quality trees that should not have been allowed. So the result was the Sierra Club, which in 2012, I'm the chairman of the Ozark Headwaters group of the Arkansas Sierra Club, chapter of the Sierra Club. And Sierra Club and the League of Women Voters sued the city council
It was founded when? Does it say
1937, 1892, whatever.
And you're the president for this shit?
Yeah, well, you just be. I can tell you, Ducks Unlimited.
For this chapter.
Ducks Unlimited was founded in 1937. Anyhow,
They sued the
city, and specifically the city council, that made the vote to allow those trees to be removed for that development of Kohl's. And, they could have built the buildings another way on the same property. You go out there and see there's this bare space around there. They want it right here, this close to the street, this part paved, and they don't have, that's a corporate model that they want. And they could have a beautiful park setting around those buildings or adjacent to them and still got the same number of parking spaces and buildings if they wanted to fit it into nature a little bit. So anyway, that money was set aside in 2000, 2001, whatever. We were already dealing with this threat to this land that's next to our house that your children loved to come play in back in the few years ago. And so the neighbors, when the developer got it approved, we'd been fighting it. But some of us that were at that last meeting, when it was approved outside, said, okay, well, let's ask him. And neighbor across the street, Jennifer, did the actual question. Would you sell it to us? Yeah, he says. Because he had been burned, for a year or however long this fight had gone on before he got through the planning commission. Park board, blah, 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 blah. You go through these steps, get all this approved. He'd spent, he said, close to $20,000 or so on engineering and all. And we made him change the plans. And that's part of what I had hired a lawyer. I had a 12-foot barrier between my property, my fence, and the closest fence they could put. And no, it was just 8 feet between them, but I guess that's what it was. But anyway, it was enough that a deer could walk through between our property and those apartments, and a squirrel could play, and birds could pick worms out of the soil, and all the things that go on in nature would be a barrier, a little protected portion. And then in the planning, we had asked about the wetland characteristics, and it had been delineated to have a portion of it in the back as wetland. But you can't, if this whole table was an acre, and there's designated wetland down through here, a little flow area, and this is all deep, rich soil, well, setting aside this much is not going to really protect the stream, because this is all
sustain the
paved.
habitat.
Right.
No habitat out here, and nothing but concrete. The water's going to run in there and go straight in. So it's going to erode downstream. So we had this agreement that on my part of it, our lot right here, this part would be set aside with that fence and so forth. So we had some concessions. And down at the lower end, the engineer was a lady, and her partner in the business was a lady. And so we had, one of them's an engineer and the other one's a landscape architect. So they had come up with a plan to satisfy our concerns about the environment there, that the lower portion down there, right before it goes into a creek where all this flowed, they would take the soil they disrupted up here, instead of sending it out to be dumped somewhere, which is what happens from construction sites so often. They had actually taken that, they would have taken that and added it to the deep soil down there and made that a natural area for the water to soak in. It was already doing that, but by adding just more topsoil, you would have more to capture and soak up more. Because basically there, you can dig anywhere from knee deep to several feet deep without hitting anything but black, rich, organic soil. And you get down to a layer of clay that's impervious almost, and so water gets there and it gradually goes toward the streams down, and it happens to be one of these sunken areas that you find in those places. You know it's actually going into the bedrock in those places, so it's affecting a whole different ecosystem when it into those. It's called karst in this area. Take a geology class, they'll tell you all about it. It's broken bedrock, deep bedrock. And we've got it lots all over this city and Benton County and Washington County and many mountainous parts of the state. It's significant. But anyway, so the winning that changed my life radically, because my wife and I have spent, from the late 90s, we were worried about what was going to happen to that land. First time it was just 2 rent houses on it, and all this 2 acres of open land behind. And we talked about buying it. Well, we were making payments on a house on $8 or $10 an hour each we were making, and we were making payments on an $80,000 house that in bad shape, still hadn't been fixed up like it ought to be. But anyhow, so we didn't really want to go into more debt to buy that property, and we didn't want to go in debt over here. So by getting this effort together and having support of neighborhood and people concerned about the environment who recognize the value of protecting wetland and so forth, and habitat in general. That was, not only was a great success to have that, but we have had to do a lot of maintenance and so
So
forth.
who actually owns it now? Is it the city
It's
of
city owns it,
Fayetteville? But you guys have to do the maintenance on it, or is that just something because it's
Well, that-
right by you that you
that-
guys prefer to do?
That was just our original agreement. City park people don't really want wetland. They don't want park that can't be a ball field, so.
Oh, okay, I
there's
see.
no-
If it's not something that a child can play on, or
Yeah, so the front of that you can play on, and now on the north side of our house is another development came. There's another acre, more than an acre, that's parkland. So that probably have some, kids could go out there and play now, but I mean, they still haven't put any swings, nice things like that. But we've been totally bound. I go over there in the middle of the night if somebody's making noise with a flashlight. I've got too old to carry a gun because I just want
you're
somebody to hit me.
you're taking a lot on right there.
But I mean, I play policeman there.
I can tell you,
all that kind of
how
stuff.
much time Aubrey spends over there, and but
I
it's,
can imagine he's very
but-
passionate.
But it's, I put a little bit of work in there myself, not
Well, yes,
just
you
to
did.
Well,
like to do it.
absolutely. I
But-
mean, I can see the passion that's coming through for
His
the park.
kids
But
came
it's a
to,
tremendous resource, not just for the environment, but it's an educational resource for.
Did you let your butterflies out there too?
well, that's where they come from. I mean, these
Your
that I'm
butterflies are
talking
coming
about,
from
they're
there, coming in
growing
there.
on those plants.
So it's plants that's actually out in there. Okay,
Uh-huh.
I figured there were some by your house.
Well, they are. It's all one place. So, yeah, the city gave $50,000 from the money that was they had to set aside. It wasn't taking anything except what they were told they had to set aside to use for green space. We got $50,000 from that. The Omni Center for Peace, Justice, and Ecology donated $25,000. Ottawa, Arkansas, $20,000, and Tyson Foods, $25,000.
Tyson's.
Yeah.
Wow. Why?
Well, they are always battling the perception of being guilty of this, that, and the other things that plants and factories are.
Environmental
So-
issues.
They were happy to support that kind of thing.
And it was also something that wouldn't affect them or them expanding.
It wouldn't hurt their business, but
No, what
Just
you
clarify here.
$25,000, I mean, that's a very wise investment on their part.
well, yeah, I mean, those companies do donate. For instance, Don Tyson, before he died, had given, in the last 2 years before he died, they had given $100,000 to support expansion of the National Cemetery, which is also in their neighborhood. So he was down there
National
in
Cemetery. I've been
the
in
last
there.
few months of his life for a presentation or a check. And so, yeah, the corporations do have people with hearts, but they also have a vested interest in, and when that comes
So much
together,
that's set
it
by
can do
every-
something wonderful for
Isn't it like
you
so
know.
much set by every year or two to go towards charities so that they're not taxed quite as much?
Well,
I'm
sure,
just saying.
they have reasons.
But whatever helps, you know
You
what?
gotta-
If it
You
comes,
gotta take what
gotta-
you can get.
That's
gotta be
right, if it
thrilled
comes to
To
whatever-
get a piece of that action. Well, I mean, we've got this, thanks to Walton family, we've got this spectacular museum. I haven't been to see it yet.
I haven't
what museum?
either. The Crystal Bridges.
Oh, I haven't been out there. A lot of people have been. They said it's really.
Uh-huh.
Plus, not only just the inside. I have a friend, and they said that the hiking trails are phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful up and back and back and around there. So,
Yeah, it's really great.
I have to go check it out. I just haven't gotten there yet.
Well, you will.
I will eventually when life slows down there.
But I haven't got.
Have you seen anything else on there?
I'm just trying to think, because we need to wrap it up pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I think we've pretty much well covered You're a very easy person to talk to.
Well, you guys are too, and I
Well, that's what
enjoy
when I told you, when I heard about this, I said, man, Aubrey came to mind immediately. I said,
I had no one.
I said, this is gonna be, all we have to do is just sit back and
You'll have to
pay
make him
attention.
shut up eventually.
I do have one other question though. You said your
Okay.
dad, when your mom and dad got married, he was a door-to-door coffee salesman.
Uh-huh.
Is that what he did through your life, or did he switch jobs?
No. When they moved to Ruston, when they got married, he still had that coffee job. He just got a different route, and that was probably, you know, he had a young wife and got out of town to have a separate life from the parents. But young couples do that. They don't really want to stay with grandparents. But then when she got polio, it was necessary to move back because he couldn't take care of a baby and work.
So what did he do besides?
And that's why he didn't go to the military. Well, you
Oh,
asked
he
that
was in the
question.
military.
No, he
No,
wasn't.
he didn't.
Oh, he wasn't.
He didn't get drafted for World War II because my grandmother, my mother's mother, went and said, I'm taking care of this baby, but we don't have the income to support
To
our household and
substantiate
do all this. If he is sent on to be a foot soldier,
So he got a
for
deferment for
like $30 a month or whatever in World War II, or 20, whatever it was, to be a foot soldier. Boot camp was probably $15.
So what did he do also with the coffee?
Oh, well, after went back to Shreveport, instead of going back to the coffee, or he continued that temporarily maybe, but then he soon had a job with the public transit, which I mentioned
Oh, okay.
how important it was to people, and so he could ride the trolleys free. My mother had a free pass, and I got a school ticket when I started school. It was a penny a ride for school children,
Wow. So
and you had school tickets. They were different.
when he started doing public transit, did he still do coffee, or
No,
was
no,
that
no.
that was just in Ruston?
But he actually was not entirely satisfied. So over the years, well, within 3 years he got to be a supervisor, probably because he was older, more responsible than the average young man working there, maybe, or something, or they liked him, or thought he would work extra hours free, which
Yeah.
is often why you're a supervisor. You want salary,
Oh, yeah,
you
you're
get
on
to work
salary,
all you
yeah.
want. That's what I love in jobs I've had. I don't want to go home till I'm happy with it.
Mhm.
And if it's something you're proud of, you know, if you're miserable doing it, you won't go home. But if the goal is to get something done right, then you don't even think about working on Saturday or Sunday or nights or whatever. But anyhow, he got to be supervisor, and he had a choice of night shift, 3 shifts for supervisors, because the buses ran part of the night, early in the morning. There was about a 3-hour gap. He often worked the midnight shift, or through the night shift, whatever it was, time. I don't know the exact time difference now. I can't remember. But maybe 10 to 7 or 10 to 9 or 8 till. But anyway, he would do it to fit the season of the year when he wanted to go duck hunting. So he could be out in the lake in the morning in his duck line, and he would take naps in a bench and a charcoal bucket, sort of like you'd broil on or something, but it was safe. You could do it inside this brushy overhanging thing and get away with it, you know, just burn charcoal.
Was he
I'm not
ever?
sure we even knew it was dangerous.
Was he ever? Because I mean, in times of war, men take that, especially then, men take that as you know. So I understand a goal or something. Was he ridiculed at all for not going?
People, in fact, I mean, if he was that age, probably a lot of people got deferments for other reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, I know my stepdad didn't go because he was he had a wife, I think at the time 2 children, so he wasn't drafted for Vietnam because he was a sole source. But I mean, and I know he wasn't ridiculed or anything, but I was just curious if at that time, because I mean,
doubt he was.
it seems more times than not, you know, back when World War I or World War II, that was the thing. You went, you served, and then you got a job. So
Well, you think about though the
Vietnam
people
was
who were-
different though.
Yeah, but that's extremely opposite in many ways. But the fact was that so many men were away in war that the ones who were there were either out of the age bracket totally or had some good reason they weren't dragged off to do it. I mean, it was pretty, people didn't run away. They couldn't afford to go to Canada or whatever and try to get away from it. But,
No.
so, go ahead. I'm sorry, you had an
No.
extension of
Go,
that.
go ahead. No, it was just, because you said your mother worked and you never, what did she do?
Oh, she ended up, she, like I say, she went to these classes for secretarial office work and stuff because she finished high school without starting college to get married,
Yeah.
and thought about expected, I think, to go to college, both of them, and I went to at the same place, blah, 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 great little town to grow up in. But anyhow, she went to work at a furniture store. And then she worked at maybe a better furniture store at some other place. And then she, I don't know, but pretty soon she got a job at the Veterans Administration. And worked there for years until she retired. Veterans Administration Hospital, but she was in the administrative offices of it actually. And she was, one of the things she did that was inspirational, she would go visit with men and some women, but primarily men in those days that were veterans who had handicaps, assaulting, bad wounds, trying to get back to walking or using their blown away arm, whatever, all the things that hideous things guys go through, that people go through, and so she would go and make them believe you could recover, you could get past not being able to walk if you go with a program and do the exercise.
So if she worked in the administration, but she would also go and kind of be their little cheerleader.
Yeah, she was good at that.
Well, good. Well, but I mean, I guess coming from her who overcame polio,
Yeah, it really did
so I mean, I guess it does mean a little bit more than some, me going in saying, hey, you can do better.
Hey, look at me,
I've got mobility.
I've never been injured, so be like me. Yeah,
Well, that's good. Wow. I gotta say.
Anyway, so since I'm recording this, I'll ask you guys now to tell me your names and why we did this. And of course, I'm Aubrey Shepard, but tell me about yourselves briefly.
Oh, I don't know what to say.
What's your goal in studying at Northwest Arkansas?
Well, right now I am attempting to get into the nursing program.
Uh-huh.
But I really want to move to the VA to get the BSN
Uh-huh.
instead of just the diploma.
Well, that right now you do have a diploma that will get you into the basic levels of nursing at the community college.
Oh, I just have my high school diploma.
No, I mean there is a program you're
Yes.
in that will get you that first step.
Yeah, there's the RN program that they have there. You have to, of course, finish all your prereqs, then you apply to the school, and if they accept you, then you will graduate with an associate RN.
And then
And then if you want to go to, or you can go, and or